Okay, hello. I think ma'am is me, right? I thought I have not heard one thing. So there's been no audio online and the chat is closed. So my apologies for anything that was shared. I didn't hear a word. So thank you for that introduction, and I'm very happy to be here with you. Before I get started, because I could just keep going and going, I just want to check, do I have 1 hour? Is that true? 1 hour? Or how long do I have so I'm on time? Okay, I saw a nod, so we'll go with that. I'm really excited and delighted to be here with everyone. Thank you so very much for having me. It is such an honor. I want to especially thank Professor Matma Bajpai. I want to thank Professor Shubha Tiwari, who we met in Harvard. And it was just such an honor to have this invitation for so many reasons. India in particular, as a country, as a culture, is very close to my heart. I had the opportunity of visiting 4 times over the years of 2016 to 2018. And I really enjoyed my travels around India. And it was really the birthplace in this lifetime of what it is that I'm doing today. The start of my career for the first 10 years was in film and television. And it wasn't until I actually visited India in 2016 that I had a huge heart opening, a huge awakening, and I realized I need to change everything I'm doing in my life. And so that's when I started on my spiritual journey, and also on my journey of more dedicated service for humanity. And that's also when I met the founder of the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation, of which I'm the executive director, Dr. and Master Jigong Shah. And he is a world-renowned healer, a humanitarian, and he actually started what we call the Love, Peace, Harmony movement in India in 2008. So later on, if I'm able to share any audio in this session, I can share with you our beautiful Love, Peace, Harmony song in Hindi. So namaste, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. I'm particularly excited to see quite a few men in the crowd. That's awesome. I wasn't sure what the audience would be like, so it's amazing to see a really good diverse mix, and I think that that's extremely important and absolutely vital, especially when we're having any conversations around empowering women. Because men, you play a very large part in that. So I'm very happy to see you here, and that is really wonderful. So I want to honor everyone who's created this space, and I understand it's a 2-day seminar on the leadership and women empowerment and women of change makers of the 21st century. So what does this really mean, women of change makers? You know, a lot of times when we bring up this conversation of women empowerment and women being these change makers in the world, you know, on the one hand, it can be very exciting and empowering. And on the other hand, sometimes you may or may not have noticed, it can actually bring up fear. It can bring up scarcity. It can bring up even defensiveness. Because sometimes people think, well, what's going to happen if I empower the women around me in the world? Where will my position go? Will I still be able to have power? What's going to happen to me? And the truth of the matter is, the more that we empower women, the more that we create a world of compassion, of love, of unity. And you may ask, how is this possible? Well, first, I just want to share a few reasons on why women in leadership even matters. Because many people may say, well, the world is okay the way that it is. Why do we even need this? Why do we need to change? Well, when you look at the world as it stands today, it doesn't take much to see the suffering. to see the challenges. And currently, there are some studies that show, as of 2003, for example, only 10% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. And only 26% of parliamentary seats worldwide are held by women. That's from the UN Women. And in India, only 15% of senior leadership roles are held by women. That was a study by the World Economic Forum. So what does this show us? Well, this shows us that we have a very skewed version of what it means to be a leader. We have a very imbalanced majority in leadership. And we need everyone. We need the strength and the vision of men. But we also need the love, the wisdom, the maternal instincts, and the compassion of women. And these two together create a very powerful field. And I don't think this is anything new, especially those of us in the house that are from the Hindu tradition, Shiva and Shakti. It's very simple. And we, yes, all have that within us, of course, when you reach a certain stage on our enlightenment journey. However, are they in balance? How do we use this wisdom so that we can move forward and empower the world? Because when we empower women, we are actually changing the world. In fact, we are creating the world of love, peace, and harmony when we do this. Now, the purpose of what I am here to speak about today is called Resilience, Vision, and Influence, the Evolving Role of Women Leaders. And as I'm here sharing, I want to invite you, to feel free to write down your questions and put your hand up, and we will have an opportunity for some Q&A as well. So I want to encourage you to table those questions as they come up. But this is something that's really near and dear to my heart and soul. Because this, although it may seem like an eternal, ever-evolving topic, in many ways is actually very new. And unfortunately, in many societies, cultures, and countries around the world, unbelievably, it is still very taboo. Because there are many places in the world right now where women do not even have a voice, where even having the opportunity to come on a presentation such as this and speak about this topic would not even be possible. So the fact that we're even able to have this conversation is a gift, and it is a privilege. When we have more diversity in our decision-making, when we have more women in positions of power, we have teams with greater diversity who are more likely to actually outperform those who are not. This is studies that have been done to look at all the aspects to find new solutions. So bringing women into the conversation is a vital role of the evolution of humanity. And when we speak about resilience, what does resilience even mean? Well, I'm sure if there's anyone who is in the body of a woman, you know what it means to be resilient. Whether you're a mother, or maybe you're not. Maybe you just mother people around you. You take care of people in your community. But the role of women for eons has actually been oppressed. It's very simple. You simply look at something like media. I come from a critical media theory background. I studied media theory from a very young age. I worked in film and television. And I witnessed how the media is used to condition women from a very young age to be a certain way, to look a certain way, to speak a certain way, and to act a certain way. And this does not only happen in the media, but it goes out culturally and impacts us. It impacts our self-love, our self-worth, our confidence, our decision-making. So in order for us to even be who we feel that we are, we need resilience. We need to be able to move through challenges. We need to realize that when someone is telling us something, it is not always necessarily a direct reflection of us, of what is meant to be internalized, but it could also be a direct reflection of their consciousness and where they are at. For example, if I'm a woman and I am in a leadership role and I am the only woman in that role, I could have many people around me, men included, say things like, "You're too emotional. What are you doing here? Women belong in the kitchen. Women belong in the home," etc., etc. I'm sure the list goes on forever. But we must be resilient to hear those words and know this is not the truth of who I am. Now, I do not need to fit in the boxes that society has created for me. I do not need to succumb to the opinions of those around me. That in fact, not in spite of, but because I am a woman, I have an inherent strength, vision, wisdom, and intuition that actually gives me a very special key for this life. So being a woman as a leader is actually a gift. It is a very, very precious gift. And it is one that for many, many, many generations, what many may call the patriarchy, certain forms of leadership, whatever you want to call it, has tried to take from us and say, no, you're actually less than. This is what you're meant to do. You are meant to go here. You are meant to do this. You are meant to fit in these boxes. But you see, we are so much more than the boxes that society puts us in. We are so much more than even the boxes that our own consciousness conditioning puts ourselves in. And that is true resilience. To continue to uncover these invisible limitations that we put on ourselves. And day after day say, I choose another way forward. I believe in myself. I believe that I can do it. And no matter what people say about it, no matter what society tells me is possible, I have the inner strength to bounce back. I have the flexibility emotionally, the adaptability, and the trust in myself. That instead of like an old rigid branch that just breaks at the slight bending, I can be like that blade of grass that is ever evolving with the changing tides of life. So resiliency is built when we, like the phoenix, learn to rise from our wounds. When we are able to take the pain and turn this into triumph. Not even because anyone gave us permission, not because there was some huge opening and all of a sudden it was easy, but because day after day we wake up and courageously we decide for ourselves what is possible. Because all it takes is that one light, that one candle that continues to light the other candles does not lose the illumination of its flame. So this is like really something that I'm very, very passionate about. I see a hand raised. So maybe we can go to Suvendra. Okay, that could have been an accident. If you need to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. So this is just one of the most exciting topics. And especially because I particularly see a lot of men in the room and even on here on the Zoom. Young boys, men, you have an absolutely vital role to play in this movement. Because for women empowerment, it is not just for the women. In fact, it is actually the men's duty in the position of power that you hold to give women a seat at the table, to give women respect, to honor and appreciate the women in your life, to look at yourself and ask yourself, what more can I do with the privilege I've been given in a world where only 15%, for example, of decision makers are women? To not only attend lectures, to not only be in the conversation, but to actually look at your life and say, where can I empower women more? Where can I actually take action to give them a seat at the table, to give them autonomy, to offer them an opportunity to make a critical decision, to give them financial empowerment, to give them opportunities not only to express their voice, but use their voice in a way that is going to make a change. Many of the men in this room own your own businesses. You have your own families. You have all kinds of opportunities where you, when you're sitting at that executive leadership meeting, look around that table and ask yourself, how many women are sitting at this table? I will say that again. How many women are seated at this table? I will say that one more time. Look around when you're at that executive leadership meeting, whether you're an employee, whether it's your own business, and just ask yourself the question, how many women are seated at this table? Of the 10, 20, 30 people, how many women are here with me? How can I look at the other women in positions and start to look at how I can empower them further? Because it's not only about having the conversations, it's about the action. What did Gandhi say? Be the change, right? So we need to not only express the change in our voice and our words, which is wonderful, but we need to leave this lecture. We need to leave this 2 days and do some deep inquiry into our own life, into the world around us, and say, what change can I make? How can I empower the future leaders of tomorrow? How can I make room at the table for more young women? How can I use my privilege to give them an opportunity? So that's a very powerful exercise I want to leave everybody with. An inquisition to really, truly think about it. It's the ability to see a different future. Because the vision is not just what we say. It's not even just what we do, but it's who we are. Who are we being? For example, when I'm in a room and only there are men around me, do I speak positively about the women? Do I lift them with my words? Do I empower them when no one's listening? So think about the ways that we do that. And it's not only the men. Women also have conditioning, again, going back to the media. If you look at all the sitcoms, I'm sure it was similar to India. I know the Bollywood movies, everything, whatever, all the drama, the stories. The point is that whether it was for fun, for entertainment, or whether we took it seriously or not, it's still in our subconscious that women are in competition with each other, that there's only a certain amount of seats at the table, the lack, the scarcity. These are all aspects of ourselves that we must completely let go so that we also empower the women around us, that we continue to want to see the women shine, to see our sisters rising to the occasion, to give them opportunities. For example, Professor Shubha, we met at this beautiful workshop. She made the recommendation for me to come here, to be able to speak. So that's a wonderful example of opening the doors for another woman, for giving them a chance to share their voice, to be in a position of being able to share through their leadership and more. And so these are all very important aspects of influence. So when we do find ourselves with the chance to actually influence people around us, that we use our influence to break molds. We use our influence to make a change. We use our influence to actually uplift people who are oppressed, who are marginalized, who are underserved, who need our support, who need our care, who need us to be able to say that I will reach out my hand and I will lift you up. When women hold a vision, communities rise. There are many, many, many studies that show this. For example, when a woman receives wealth, there's a higher percentage than not that she will share that with her family and friends. She will share that with her community. She will do philanthropic work. So there's a lot of amazing research out there that I encourage everyone to look at that actually speaks to showing that women, as they rise, that they lift up the world around them, that they have a heart of service, that they want to transform the world around them. And so this is really important to really reflect on. What is the vision that you hold for your life? What is the vision that you hold for your family, for your country, for your community? That as you get leadership, as you are empowered, what is it that you wish that you could see more in a leader? How is it that you feel you can make a difference? And I really want you to reflect on that. Now, I'm curious, now that I've been sharing for a little while here, to get some feedback from everyone that's here. I want to invite you, if you're in the room, you can come up. I guess there's probably a microphone or something. Or if you're on the Google Meet here, if there's anyone who has a comment, a sharing, question, doesn't have to be a question. Sometimes we don't have a question, but there might be something like an aha moment or realization or just something that you're seeing in your own life. So I love to hear at least one person, maybe a few people share just what's present for you as I'm speaking. What are you aware of in your own life?
Thank you, Alexia, so much. And uh, we would like to know about your own personal journey. I mean, if you could share a bit of your own self.
Okay, sure. Anything specific or?
Your own journey. Reached a position, and what were the obstacles and how you overcame And what have been your points of learning and special experience? I really wanted to know, and we are eager.
Okay, perfect. So in that case, then I will jump into sharing personally from my personal journey. Thank you so much, Professor, for this beautiful activation. So I will share a little bit about my journey and you know, some of those pain points and the challenges and how to work through them. And, you know, yes, I am currently in a role of executive director of an international foundation. We're in 31 countries, including India. We're registered in the United States. And we have hundreds of people in our community worldwide. We work with many diverse partners. And the whole purpose of the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation is to serve the underserved, particularly women, children, and families, and especially in 5 areas of humanitarian vital aid, which is access to clean water, food, shelter, healthcare, and education. And, you know, this is really like my life's passion and work. And we also have the Love, Peace, Harmony Field program, which uses this beautiful song of love, peace, and harmony and this calligraphy art to create this field, this vibrational field that elevates the vibration, that helps relieve mental, emotional challenges and more. And so, as I had mentioned, you know, I started in the realm of film and television. I was an actor when I was much younger. I love performing arts. And when I visited India in 2016, I had a magical journey. I went to the south, to Goa, to Kerala, all through the backwaters and different temples. I went to Hampi and I got to visit all these amazing temples where the monkey god was there and these big rocks. And I got to go to Leh Ladakh, way up in the Himalayas, and got to drive to Kardongla on the road. And it was just magical, you know, being in the Nubra Valley. And I remember going to Pangong Lake. And when I was at Pangong Lake, I had a very magical experience. And I won't go into too much detail, but all I will say is that it was a very multi-dimensional experience where, if anyone is familiar with the Avatar Babaji, he is there. I will say he is there. That's all I'm going to say. It's true. I can attest. So it's very wild. And it really made me think differently about life. I thought, okay, I didn't come here for that. That wasn't in the plan, but as we know, we make plans and God laughs. So that was that. So when I came back to Toronto, I thought, oh my gosh, I need to change my whole life. Everything I'm doing, I just need to stop it. And at the time, I thought I would become a yogi and, you know, ascend and never return. So I threw out all my clothes. I threw out everything I had. I was like, I'm renouncing the world and I'm just going to be in my room doing Kriya Yoga for the rest of my life. Well, that didn't last very long. And I realized that I do have a mission here to serve. That it's not that. So that's when I really was seeking. And I found the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation. I found Dr. and Master Jigong Shah, who is also my spiritual teacher, what many would know as like a guru G. He's my guru. And I, you know, dedicated my life to this work. I began doing practices, meditations with this song and with the calligraphies that transformed my whole life, every aspect of life. And so I began to see the vital nature of this work and how important it is that we, as soon as we receive some level of empowerment, that we are using that to empower others. And that's when I began this journey. So I actually started as a volunteer and I dedicated myself full time to volunteering. And I encountered many challenges along the way. You know, for example, financially, it was extremely challenging because I knew I needed to follow my heart. I knew I needed to do what I was being called to do. But yet that journey and path in that moment in time was calling me to completely let go of everything. Let go of my work, let go of my job at the time, just completely renounce everything I was doing so I could focus. And so that took a lot. It put me in some compromising situations in my life. In fact, I even had to move back home with my family to take care of myself. And I had a really challenging time with that at first, because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm an adult and here I am needing to do all of these things. And it almost felt like I was backtracking. But one thing, if it's something I've learned, is this journey is not linear. And oftentimes we think that life is just this upward line. And although it can be, for many of us, it's like a circle, a spiral. It moves, and it's just this ever-evolving mosaic, this beautiful mandala of life, where we're constantly being faced with tests and challenges that bring us back to who we truly are, that bring us back to our center. Whether it's as a woman, as a leader, as a spiritual being in a physical journey, whatever you look at your life, there's a center, there's a purpose. And I discovered for myself that the purpose of my life is to serve. And I believe the purpose of many of our lives is to serve. To find those people that are suffering, that are struggling, that are marginalized, that are underserved, and uplift them. So I realized that even in these short spurts of what could potentially be seen as suffering or challenges, that there is something much greater guiding this journey, guiding this life, and that it's vital to trust that, to trust your ability to listen, to trust your ability to act, and to move forward. So the more that I began trusting, the more that I began connecting through meditations and more, I was receiving that guidance, and I was able to actually move through these challenges. And in fact, what I realized is that through this commitment to service, through this commitment to empowering others, I began becoming empowered. It ended up turning in from a volunteer role to a job. I ended up getting a full-time job. And at first I was a youth program director, and I started creating programs for youth, empowering youth. And of course there were challenges along the way. I questioned myself and I said, am I really qualified to do this? Because I feel like a youth myself. How could I possibly teach others, empowerment? How could I possibly teach others? But many of us are now, familiar with this common word, imposter syndrome. However you want to talk about it, self-doubt, self-love issues, self-worth. What we realize, and what I realized more and more, that I think probably most of us here know very well, is that we are not our thoughts. I am not my thoughts. They're just something that I have. So even though I may have had these negative thoughts about myself, I may have doubted myself, doubted my abilities, doubted, can I really do this? Can I really show up and do a speech on this? Can I really be the only woman in the room? Can I really take on this role at this part of my life? Can I really show up as a leader, if this is my situation at home or this or that? And the answer is yes, 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 yes. So we so often doubt ourselves, judge ourselves. Our mind is so powerful. It comes up with all these excuses of why we can't do something, why we're not good enough, why we should accept this abuse and just tolerate it, why we should not set boundaries, why we should not love ourselves because this. Well, it's not true. That is all an illusion. And what I realized very deeply is that no matter what level I got to, no matter after my promotion from youth program coordinator to a co-director, I was co-directing with fellow colleagues. These colleagues were decades older than me. Decades. I was flabbergasted that I even had that role, to be honest with you. Decades older than me. Then it got to a point where they actually stepped down for their role And there I was, the sole executive director of this foundation, internationally renowned in 31 countries, with all these programs of volunteers. And I'm managing this annual budget. I'm managing all the volunteers, all the team, connecting with the partners. I'm working with an advisory committee who are all extremely senior to me. I felt like a child in their presence. I'm like, how could I possibly do this? I am not a fan of budgets. I don't even know if I want to do this. Like, who told me I needed to do this? But then that little voice, that usually it's the quiet one, that says, this is actually your purpose. You are meant to do this. You know, and that's when that little voice came and said, you are so much more than you think you are. And this is a really big key. We are so, and especially for women. And why do I say that? You might say, why does she keep saying that? Like, okay, we get it. It's women empowerment. Why? Because you know what? There's a study that's been done, in case you didn't realize this. When children are young, if you look at a lot of children's clothes, if you go to like a store that has kids' clothes, you look at the little girls' clothes, you look at the little boys' clothes. The little boys' clothes, what do they have? They have lions and tigers and sharks and big monster trucks. What do the little girls' clothes have? They have daisies and bunnies and little chicks coming out of the egg. Why is this important? Because from a very young age, before we even have the consciousness to make sense of it, the programming, by the way, could still be completely unconscious and running until we're 60, 70. Just age is not always connected to the wisdom. So we need to also remember that. So the reason I'm saying that is that these young boys from a young age are taught, be confident, be strong. You're a tiger, you're a lion, you're a shark. You can drive a monster truck. Get out there, fight. What are the little girls taught? Be soft. Be a little bunny. Be like a flower shining in the sun. Don't even speak. Just look pretty. So how does that fit into the patriarchal global scale of leadership we have created, run by men? Well, a woman who's quiet and meek. Oh, I didn't mean to offend you. I'm so sorry. No, it just doesn't work. I'm telling you right now, that daisy is going to be trampled on. Sorry, but it's true. And why do I say that? Because I've been through that. I've been the little daisy who got trampled into mush. But what happens when the daisy gets trampled? The seeds sprout and more daisies grow. So there is strength in the softness. And it's not saying that you have to be like the shark, or you have to be like this big truck to be powerful. But we have to have the wisdom to understand the strength in the softness. And in fact, I may even raise the point that it takes even more strength, more resilience, more wisdom to be soft in a world that is created for the strength to prevail. And this is why I say especially for women. Because in fact, in order for us to be able to maintain some level of that softness, which doesn't need to be forced or unnatural, but it's just a natural part of our way of being. It's actually our gift, our strength is that. It actually takes this like insurmountable level of internal strength, of resiliency, and of self-love and self-worth. So again, coming back to the thoughts, If we do not have an awareness of that, as women, we can so easily just get sucked in to the darkness. We can get sucked into the negative thoughts. We can get sucked in and dragged down by being trampled on again and again and again. The daisy with the monster truck just driving over every single day, whether it's a microaggression, whether it's very verbal and obvious abuse, you know, whatever it may be. I would say most women probably experience that in some way every single day. Every single day. Whether it's a passerby in a cafe, the way someone just looks at you, speaks to you, every single day. And it's something that a man simply will never understand. Because you being in your male body do not have that same experience. So it's very simple like that. And so these thoughts are very important to have an awareness of. Very, 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 very important. Because what I had to do and what I continue to have to do every single moment of every single day is actually completely guard those thoughts. Completely have the inner resiliency and strength. Have the ability to say, I do not subscribe to that. I actually don't feel that way about myself. If I have a thought of like, oh, you're not good enough to do this. Well, actually, no, I'm choosing something else. I'm choosing to believe something else. Just because that thought comes in my awareness doesn't make it true. So I invite each one of us to take that time every single day and ask yourself, is this really a true message? And how do you know? Well, a true message is usually uplifting. It's empowering. It's not always going to be self-serving because that's often the ego, but it will empower you in some way. It will uplift you. So sometimes there might be something to learn. Maybe there is some truth. Maybe it could be a little bit hard to hear sometimes. But there's going to always be an element where we're left empowered, stronger, more centered and grounded and rooted within who we are and how we can serve the world. So I want to invite all of us to take that on as well, because that's something that one of the biggest takeaways that I learned in this journey. And of course, also that others' reflections, the way they speak, the way that they speak, for example, about you or to you or their opinions, oftentimes, especially if it's someone you admire and you respect, it's very important to always listen with compassion, with openness. And that being said, I am empowered. You are empowered. We are all empowered to decide what actually resonates as truth for me. And what is a projection of that person's consciousness of where they're at in their life, and what is actually a true reflection for me. And that's been a very important level of discernment, especially when dealing with others. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, I learned I don't need to even express that to people. I just need to know for myself what is true. Because sometimes it's not worth it. If you know it's going to cause disharmony, and if you know it's going to cause an issue and there's no real outcome, then it's probably not worth even bringing up. You can just know internally, okay, that didn't really resonate as true for me. Appreciate it, but I'm going to throw that in the peanut gallery for later, or just let it go completely. However, the third point after discernment and the thoughts, self-worth and self-love, is do not be afraid of conflict. Do not be afraid to speak up. Do not be afraid to ruffle feathers. It is not something that I particularly invite, especially promoting a world of love, peace, and harmony. However, what I will say is I've realized sometimes a constructive debate, conflict, it's like ripping off the Band-Aid. It's actually can be more constructive in the long run. So always have a forward-thinking vision. We're talking about vision today. Have a vision, have foresight, have intuition, use it wisely. Know when it is important to use your voice. For example, in a position of leadership, of executive leadership, just as an example, yesterday, I'm in a meeting with 3 other men and I'm the only woman. It doesn't, ultimately, you may say it doesn't matter. Everyone has a position, a role. But I also realize I'm a representation of something very important. And so when things are being spoken, just as an observation, I've noticed most of my male colleagues, they have no problem just interjecting themselves in the conversation. No problem. Just right in there. If I started my career, I used to just wait. I would wait for my time to speak. I would do everything very calmly. I'm going to be respectful and I'm going to just wait here. Well, that turned into the next meeting. That turned into the next meeting. That turned into the next meeting. Next thing you know, 3 months later, you're lucky if you said hello. So you got to also know the room that you're working in. Who is in the room? Use your intuition. Read the room. I will tell you right now, I'm not naturally the type of person who likes to do that kind of thing. Personally, to be honest with you, I would prefer that we all, have the emotional and social awareness to give each other a chance to speak. But sometimes we don't all have that luxury. So if you realize you're in a space like that, don't be afraid to meet that energy. Don't be afraid to interject yourself in the conversation because your voice matters. Your presence matters. Your leadership matters. And unfortunately, when we've been conditioned to be the daisy, if sometimes we need to be the bulldozer or sometimes we need to be the shark, we can feel wrong. We can feel bad. We can feel negative about ourselves. And guess what? Even other people might think that because they're conditioned too. But guess what? You want to take it back to the Shiva Shakti. If we all have this inside of us, then we need to be able to access the divine masculine, divine feminine when we need it for the purpose of our service, for the purpose of our life. So I will say, don't be afraid to go there, and don't be afraid if people have opinions about it. In fact, I welcome it because what I realize is in a world where we've all been conditioned in these ways, when there is a way shower, when there is someone with a vision, when there is someone who wants to make change, usually they're met with extreme opposition. Look around at the world, all of them. Anyone you can think of, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, everyone had huge opposition. Imagine what they went through. So what makes you any different? What makes you any less qualified to change the world? What makes you any less of a person? You have the power to make that change, in fact. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your life experience, doesn't matter your circumstance. You can make a decision, and you can make that decision today to make a change. And that's, in fact, what I realized and what I, went for is I think these 3 things are the most important things coming through today for whatever reason. It is the learning of the thoughts, managing the thoughts, managing the self-love, managing the self-doubt. It is the discernment, discerning in your life. And it's having that vision and not being afraid to use it. Use your voice. Use the vision that you hold. Share it with the world. Share it with your family. Share it with your colleagues. And make a difference where you can. So if I am able to, well, you know what? I'll make an attempt at singing for you. Just forgive me in advance. I'll do my best. But we have a special song called Love, Peace, and Harmony. So if you go to lovepeaceharmony.org, you'll see the song, you click experience, go down to our song, and you'll see it different languages. Our founder made this beautiful song, and the song was actually received. It's received in his spiritual channels from the divine. And it's a very special song for healing. It's a very special song for transformation. And it's a very simple song. So I'm going to sing it to you. I'm going to attempt in Hindi for those that speak Hindi. And it's just a beautiful little mantra that I want to share with you as we, I think, probably bring my speaking to a close here. So, and yes, I see one hand up, so feel free to raise your hand if you do have any questions. So this song is called Love, Peace, and Harmony. And again, it is a sacred mantra for healing, for transformation. And you can get that song on our website. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Alexia Cito, and Love, Peace, Harmony at Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation as well. So I'll sing it.
Hello,
in
ma'am. I'm
English.
Suyash from.
Yes.
I have a question. Do you have any specific advice for Indian women? Am I audible, ma'am?
I do. Sorry?
Am I audible, ma'am?
You are audible, yes.
Yes, ma'am. I have a question. Do you have any specific advice for Indian women?
Yes. Well, I would say that everything I shared in the last, in this whole presentation applies to Indian women. But what I would say even more so is that Indian women, you are absolutely majestic. You are powerful. You come from a lineage of goddesses. I do not say that lightly. A lineage of women who are matriarchs, who held communities. When you look way back in the history of India, many women held positions of power. And yet, sometimes we forget the power that we hold. So what I would say, especially for Indian women, is first of all, I obviously am speaking from a bias. I'm not an Indian woman myself. I did not grow up in India. But what I would say from all of my beautiful Indian friends, from my experiences traveling in India, is that, boy, do we have a lot of work to do. So what I would say is buckle up and start acting for the women in the country, especially the young women and the men, because there's a lot of things that need to change. A lot. And it's not just India, it is the whole world. Why are children still being trafficked? Why are children still being married? Why are children being taken out of school to take care of their younger brothers and sisters when they're only 5 and 6? Do we have all the answers? No, we don't. Why is there so much domestic abuse? Why are there not enough services to care for the women? This is not an India issue. This is a global issue. And we need as many people as possible speaking about it, bringing awareness to it, bringing attention to it. And not only that, bringing resources, connecting with the people in positions of power who can make this change. Because the status quo is comfortable for some, but it leaves a lot of people suffering. And this is a new era for humanity. So what I would say for Indian women, Siyash, is really, you are empowered. You are amazing. And do not underestimate yourself. No matter what your circumstance or your challenges, because I know they can be extreme, you just need to believe, reach out to the people you trust to ask for help if you need it. And if you are in a position of privilege and your life is wonderful, look at where you can serve and help those who are suffering. And I know, I firmly believe if you are here attending this 2-day workshop, you are already doing and acting on all of this. I really know that in my heart to be true. So it's us who need to go out and share that message, to be that beacon of light. So thank you so much for that question. Did that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You have answered.
Okay. Awesome. Are there any more questions before I...
You've spoken so well, Alexia. We are so thankful to you about your personal growth and your connection with India, and whatever you said about Indian women in particular. And I realized listening to you that being a woman, the experience is universal. It's so similar. You talked about the boxes, you talked about the stereotypes and how boys are inherently powerful, confident, and how girls are inherently supposed to be soft and coy and pretty and quiet, and you know the same role here. We are all in the same boat, it seems. I mean, it appears that we're all in the same boat. And you really spoke very well from your heart. And we are so grateful. Anyone else, if anyone wishes to say something, let me see. God said, say something.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah, I want to know, ma'am, as in India particularly, do you know that representation of women at political level are so less? How they can be empowered politically?
Like, how can women be empowered to take on more of the leadership roles in the political parties? Is that the question?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, that's a great question. I can't say that I have like a definitive answer, but I would share that what I feel is from a young age, women can be more empowered for education. The more women that have an education, the more opportunities and doors that open for them. If women do not have an education, if women are taken out of the home to care for younger children, to take care of their family, if women are married at young ages, that immediately takes them off the market for roles such as being a politician, such as being in an executive leadership role. So we need to look at the next generation of women. What are these young women being given opportunities to do? How are they being empowered? How are they being given opportunities to be in leadership roles? Are they being forced to take care of their homes and families, or are they being empowered to have an education, to go on to university? So I would say look at those numbers and look at the next generation of leaders that are coming forward and take a look at that. And not only that, but who are the politicians in the positions of power right now who are holding seats in those positions of power, and can they do more in their life to use that power to empower the women around them? Women are not just secretaries, okay? There's nothing wrong with being a secretary, but women can be a lot more. Women have executive leadership abilities. They need to be given the opportunity to do that. I'll give you a perfect prime example. Why am I in this role? Because a man, the founder of the Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation, empowered me. He allowed me to lead his organization. He saw that I had amazing talent and skill. And he said, I want you to lead this foundation. I have a number of other men who are in the advisory committees who they respect me. And they said, you know what, I really want to support you. I want to help you to develop your business leadership abilities. I'm a great public speaker. I'm a great forward-facing person. I don't have business leadership experience. I needed to learn that. I needed someone to hold my hand to teach me. And to do it in a way that it's unconditional. It's not distorted. A lot of men abuse their power, for example, sexually, to take advantage of young women when they have power, to use their power. I will empower you if. I will uplift you if. And that is sick and it needs to stop. It's not okay. So men in positions of power need to purify their heart, open their consciousness, and empower women purely from a place of wanting to see them empowered, knowing they're suffering, knowing they've been oppressed and marginalized, and that it's time for that to change. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was really a wonderful and extensive lecture on leadership and women empowerment. Now, I would like to call Professor BP Singh Gaur to present his formal vote of thanks. Sir, please.
Madam, a lot of thanks to you. Your lecture was highly insightful, very knowledgeable. We feel highly motivated. Not only we teachers, our students, scholars, they have been highly benefited from your lecture. Thank you. A lot of thanks to you, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so honored and appreciate so much the opportunity to be here with you. If I may, I have a very quick mantra and song I'd love to close with. I'll just sing very quickly, if that's okay. A few minutes. Is that okay?
Pardon me once again.
Sorry? Oh, I was just saying, if it's okay, I would love to close this session with our Love, Peace, Harmony song. I can sing it in, I'll sing it in English and Hindi.
Yeah, please go ahead. Alexia, please go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a beautiful mantra.
Yeah, please do that.
Yeah. So this is our mantra. Our foundation has a mantra and it's sung in hundreds of languages around the world. So I'll do my best, forgive me in advance. So you can close your eyes if you like, or just relax. I love my heart and soul. I love all humanity. Join hearts and souls together. Love, peace, and harmony. Love, peace, and harmony. मुझे प्रेम में तेरा रहमा से मुझे प्रेम सनिया से जोड़ दे मोरा सा प्रेम शांति और एकता प्रेम शांति और एकता. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Even I am amazed that you can sing so well. Now we are formally concluding this session. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.